wanted to write this book for years. The blog Spin Sucks has been around for almost 8 years, and so it's everything. With the first book I wrote, I didn't feel as
incredible, compelling, awesome, amazing, decadent.
I think because I co-authored it, it didn't feel as risky. This one's my baby, so I was very, very, very nervous going into the launch week.
Baby, it's you. We are here. This is Marketing Q&A for another session. And my God, have we got an incredible baby for you this week. Let's bring in that incredible woman that everybody knows. She's hot to trot today, and I don't know what that means in America, but it means great stuff here over in the UK. Gini Dietrich is on the other end of the virtual phone, and if I say hello, she might say hello back. Hello, Gini.
I will say hello back.
Oh, man, I tell you, this is great because this takes me back to approximately 22 months ago when we first spoke, and that was your first book, but though it wasn't only yours, that was Jeff Livingston's, who we like very much, Jeff Living on the Twitter, because we're always happy to big people up over here on Marketing Q&A. But this is really interesting, you know, because that was the first one, Marketing in the Round, and that really exploded this idea of silos being important and blew the bloody doors off so marketing, communications and PR can live together in perfect harmony. And wow, what have we got here? It's like Marketing in the Round grew up. Spin Sucks is the blog. It's not just about the blog. The blog's got its own baby. Seems to be very babyish at the moment, doesn't it? But this is very serious. This is very grown-up stuff. Spin Sucks, communication and reputation management in the digital age. It's an honour to have you here, Gini. I'm surprised you could find the time.
Oh my gosh, I will always make time for you, if only so I can listen to your accent.
You're welcome for that anytime. Maybe we could do an audio version of Spin Sucks and
we
could verbalise it together in vocal form.
I'll have you read it for us.
Oh, that's a verbal contract. Anyway, talking about kind of the whole thing, we'd better introduce you to the people who haven't been fortunate enough to catch up with you yet, because suffice to say, there are millions of people out there, and if we can get millions of people to buy the book, so be it. That's even great. But tell us about you, Gini. So where are you at? What are you doing? What are you? Who are you? And basically, what are you doing right now?
Well, that's a lot of questions in one. Spin Sucks, the book, just came out, and right now what I'm doing is promoting the heck out of it, because they're in the US, there's this list called the New York Times bestseller list for business books, and I want to be on it. So that is what we are in the middle of.
This is really interesting, and the one thing I want to kick off with, Gini, is a criticism. I think you vastly undersold yourself and the learning experience associated with this book, okay? Spin Sucks, communication and reputation management in the digital age sounds to me like a part of business, but you can pretty much launch a business off the back of this. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm thinking about doing the same thing myself. There's so much in there. You don't just cover the theory. It's absolutely laden with practical insights, isn't it? But tell us about the journey, the process of putting this book together. How did you do it?
First, I have to say, if that's criticism, I will take criticism all day long.
Anytime.
We started the blog in 2006, I believe, and we did it really with the idea that we were trying to figure out what this newfangled thing called blogging was, and did it have a place for our clients, because we really believe if we're going to take new ideas and new strategies and tactics to clients, that we should test them out for ourselves first. So that's why we launched it. And fast forward to 2010, it sort of became a beast of its own, and it became one of the industry's leading sources for information on how to incorporate the digital web into our jobs. I certainly didn't set out to do that, but as we've grown the blog, the perception or the vision has changed quite a bit. And the vision now is to change the perception that people have of the PR industry. And that's why the name is Spin Sucks, because you hear all the time, oh, you're a spin doctor, or you lie for a living. And those kinds of things drive me crazy, because sure, like every industry, there are unethical, unprofessional people, but in the majority of us do not behave that way. And so spin sucks. Sucks to some is a bad word, but we felt like that got the point across. And this is the book I've always wanted to write. And the reason I wanted to write it is because I want the C-suite to understand that what we do is not magic. And I think what happens is PR professionals, PR teams, firms are hired because executives know they need it, but they don't understand it. And so this book really lays out the cold, hard facts about what we do.
I think it's almost a war cry for businesses to get real in the digital world to me, because I remember it must have been about 4 years ago when Gini Dietrich, your business, shapeshifted from what I would imagine is pure play PR to marketing communications.
Yep.
That was an indication of where things were going, because I always think of you as a sexy barometer of business. Two years ago, obviously Marketing the Round came out, which was a clarion call from your perspective in terms of how you stood at the time. And its baby now, Spin Sucks. And I keep saying that because I really feel that I can draw a lot of parallels, but in a good way. Marketing the Round was very, in my experience, quite preachy. But what's happened with Spin Sucks, the book, having to differentiate between the book and the blog because they're both as awesome as each other, it feels like you have been able to lay bare how it all works. So you've got the machine, and now you've got the oil, and the machine suddenly springs into action. I think that's great. I'll stop shouting about stuff that I think, because this is all about you. But one thing I wanted to mention was, when we talked just less than a couple of years ago, we talked about air that was empty of raised hands at a PR conference when you asked about people using Google Alerts. I remember this very vividly. Yes. It was considered so advanced, wasn't it, at that time in that room? But now with Spin Sucks, forget about Google Alerts. You're talking all about Google algorithms. You're talking about SEO, black hat, white hat, grey hat. Just tell us that really, business has changed beyond recognition. How do we start figuring it all out? Because even somebody who's quite advanced with all these things, I'm thinking, my God, how can I possibly keep up? That's where Spin Sucks comes in, I guess.
It does, but I also think that we have this idea that we have to keep up. And you don't. You don't have to keep up. What you have to do is figure out what your business does, who it sells to, and what those customers and prospects want. So Spin Sucks helps you figure those things out, and it's less about trying to keep up. If you're doing things in really ethical, honest, transparent ways, you'll never have to worry about what Google's doing or what new social network is out there. You'll never have to worry about those things because your business will automatically advance. But I always liken this to the fad diets. So like the Atkins diet that was out maybe 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago, however long it's been, where you could eat all of the red meat in the world, but you couldn't eat any bread. And people were losing 50 pounds, 60 pounds in a month, which is great. It's great short-term results, but then they were gaining it back and gaining more weight on top of it. So communications is the same thing. If you think you're going to go out and get these fast results, you might, and it might work in the short term, but it doesn't have that long-lasting effect.
You talk about communication because that's what the book is effectively all about. And I'm a small business, because my boss will probably listen to this and say, oh, what are you doing on the side, you cheeky monkey? But if I was a small business and I was planning for the future and I was looking at the terrain, feeling quite uncertain, read the book, thought, I subscribe and I conspire to this as my future, would you advise them to find the cash, talk to the bank manager about hiring a marketing communications firm? Or based on what you just said, do you think people can do this alone? Do you think with a little bit of training and understanding of modern techniques, this is realistic no matter what your skill level is right now?
I hate this answer, but it depends.
I like that.
if you're a startup, and you're funded and you have a team of people, I don't think your best time is spent, especially if this is not your core expertise, your best time is spent here. If you are a business owner that has 1 or 2 employees and you're, trying to make a go of it and you have to wear all of these hats, I absolutely think there are things in this book that will help you do that.
I like the depends answer because it was a little bit more extensive than you just ducking the issue. You always talk about being honest. You talk about trust, and that answer in itself makes me feel a little bit more trusting of you. Not that I was skeptical in the first place, but the fact that you're honest enough to give me the answer that actually matters rather than a biased answer that depends on your bottom line or the bottom line of a marketing communications firm. I'm just going to reel forward a little bit to chapter 4 in the book, which was all about astroturfing and whisper campaigns, fairly seedy, nefarious stuff. Until I read your book, didn't know about either. I used to play football on an artificial pitch.
Right.
And hence the astroturf. And
right.
I've got a few grazed knees. I've only got 2, but I did have over the course of my career as a footballer. Well, what are whisper campaigns? What are astroturfing things? Are they something we should all be concerned about?
I don't think we necessarily need to be concerned about it, but we do need to have our eyes open to it. There are things that happen, it happens in Hollywood, it happens especially in the US, in politics, where people start to create gossip or rumors in order to bring down the competition. So one of the examples I use in the book is Facebook hired a PR firm to create a whisper campaign against Google. And what they did is they went out and they started talking to journalists about these things that Google supposedly was doing, when in fact it just wasn't true. They were making things up, and they were hoping that the relationships they had with journalists at the big publications would get those stories written without checking sources. And in some cases it worked until one journalist started to think, wait a second, this doesn't make sense, and started digging into it. And he's the one who uncovered this whole campaign. So it happens all the time. And it's unfortunate, but I think it probably doesn't happen unless you're at a large organization and you don't have room to increase your market share, you don't have room to improve your margins. So you're looking for ways to do those kinds of things, and a lot of times it's very unethical.
When you talk about the Facebook-Google controversy, that journalist's name by any chance wasn't Dan Lyons, was it? I'm not putting you on a pop quiz here. Only reason being is I remember seeing him speak at Thinking Digital, which is a big conference here in the UK.
I don't remember for sure who it was.
Damn, he was lying to me. And I was only saying that on top of the fact that he used to be my co-host on a podcast, the Double D.
You know what? It might have been.
It maybe not, but he won't be coming for royalties. I was just curious because I remember him talking about it, and I remember getting very excited at the time, going, my God, I've got a superstar on my show. And then you came along and you just ousted him as the mayor of Podcastville. So that's that. I'm happy that you're here. You're my new hero. So thanks for that. But just worth saying because...
was the one. Yes, he was. I just looked.
Yay! Brilliant. Well, on that bombshell...
Let's get digital. Digital. I want to get digital. Can you hear my laptop dock?
Yeah, so just to mention, Marketing Q&A is here every week, Marketing Q&A on Twitter. We don't have such esteemed guests as Gini Dietrich on the show every week. That would be beyond a dream. But hey, you've heard today that she might even be doing her own show in the future. Keep your eyes peeled. Maybe once she's been into therapy and a couple of times around the Betty Ford Clinic just to recover from being a jobbing author for the second time around. Marketing in the Round was the first one. Jeff Livingston, the co-host, co-author. Can't stop thinking about radio. And the second time, of course, the one we're talking about right now, Spin Sucks. We've not got too much of a time left, but I want to stretch her out a bit longer because we've got a few unanswered questions here. Chapter 6 of your book, Gini Dietrich. I feel like I'm a mastermind here. The dark side of content. This is all about things like content scrapers, duplicate content, the penalties thereof. I am amazed that SEO as a business still exists. And I'm not, in a way, because every professional sector has its cheeky monkeys. I think SEO is it. Was that JB in the background?
Yes, it was.
Oh, I was
He's
about to
right
ask
here.
how he was. How is he?
He's right here.
Is he
good.
feeling fit enough to talk, or
I don't know if he is.
barking up the wrong tree?
He's snoring more than anything, so probably not.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's not the husband, that's the dog. Scratches around on the floor in a different way. The whole idea of SEO to me it seems a bit of a farce. I don't mind being outspoken because I think the more people, the education here needs to be to the site owners, to the people out there, the businesses who have not yet got into discussions with SEO. Because, look, Google is getting so sophisticated now, it knows when you're playing the game. And you make
Absolutely.
that so valid in your book. You know, we've got to understand we're in a different world now. Things have moved on. The market's moved on. Technology has got to this whole new level. What's happening out there? Because we've got this problem with Facebook. Good friend, mutual friend of ours, Danny Brown, announced that he was shifting his page away the other day. 6,500 likes, crazy number of people. Just can't be doing with it because they're demanding all this money up front. And Christopher S. Penn saying the same thing. We've had brands. There's a food brand who wrote a funny message to Mark Zuckerberg saying, "Listen, you were treating us nice, and now we're not getting on." Blah blah blah. Blah.
Right.
What's left? Where do we go? What do we have to do now? Now all this crazy stuff. It's a bit of a big question, frankly, because this is social, this is SEO, this is the whole thing. What next?
I am a very, very, very big believer, and I know that there are people who do not believe the same, but I believe that if we are focused on our own websites, on the properties that we own, a blog, a website, maybe you've built a community or a forum inside your website, something that you own, that you can maintain control of and always have the data and analytics from that, you can then rent out your content to whatever new interesting social network SEO tactic is out there. But always focus on your stuff first and rent your content out to those other sites. When you do that, you have to worry less about how the algorithms have changed or what the newest and latest and greatest thing is, and more about what are we doing on the site to bring in the prospects that we need to sell the products or services that we sell.
Wow. And this whole owned media thing is interesting. Jeff Rose, I think his guy's name was. He was on 6 Pixels of Separation podcast. I was listening to it in the car on the way to work today. It was about episode, if you're interested, 6,500,382,161. The guy's prolific. God bless him. You know, he's got more vocal cords than the Harlem Globetrotters. But he was explaining how, okay, look at it this way, yeah? We've got paid media, which is fossil fuel. We've got owned media, which is like solar power. But today, as business owners, we've got to go for the hybrid approach. We've got to go for the Nissan Leaf. I don't know if that's is that a common car in America, the Nissan Leaf? Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. You're kind of savvy on that thing, aren't you, more than we are? But here's this thing about we've got to kind of juggle things. And there's probably a lot of people out there, because I only just got to it today when I finished off your book. I was going to say start there. I'm not going to let any secrets out of the bag. You talked about owned media, you talked about paid media, you talked about earned media, and you talk about a fourth one as well that I've never heard of before. And it is a bit of a challenge for you. Paid, owned, shared media. I've never heard that concept until I read your book. Makes so much sense. But of those 4 different types of media, and it seems to be all about media these days, owned, paid, shared, and earned, which one is the most useful for a business owner who is only now starting to really take their content game seriously?
If you're focused on only one, you're doing it wrong. It has to be integrated. Sorry.
Look for the hybrid approach. No, I like that. But where should we start, though? If we want to go down the route of taking them all on, surely you've got to begin somewhere. Or is it literally you just got to keep dipping your fingers in all the different pies?
You know, I do think you have to keep dipping your fingers in, but if you take the approach of focusing on something that you own, then you're going to start with owned, and then you're going to rent that content out to your shared media. And the shared media is then going to drive people, journalists and bloggers are then going to see it. So that's going to drive your paid or your earned media. And then eventually, especially if you're a small business, the paid comes in. So we're a small business. Some of the things that we do with paid media are, I consider email marketing paid media because you're exchanging something. So you're exchanging an email address and it for content. So I consider that paid media. Lead generation, I consider paid media. But we also, with the launch of the book, tested Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads. And you know what? We spent $100 for the week, which is nothing, and it works. So dipping in and out of those things, testing, being willing to experiment, being willing to put down 20 or 40 bucks to see if it'll work is worth your time.
Well, the interesting one here is, you've got this business, you've got this incredible book now, which I don't know, I'm thinking you could wave that around as your modus operandi. It's a bit like Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh.
Yeah,
he shares it around his staff, and you think, this is the definitive guide. This is our Bible.
Yep.
You're like my virtual Jesus, really, here in many ways for business because of what you do. But by the time you get to page 146, it is a bit like switching a light on for businesses. You've managed to validate everything that we're doing and everywhere we're going as a collection of businesses. You must be thinking, okay, I've almost said what I wanted to say. We started at the top of the show and you were explaining about how you've had this book inside you for so long. You've had this business for quite a long time. Does this suggest that you're moving in different directions into the future? To me, you've almost achieved so much, it feels rude to the world to infer that you're going to be doing the same thing for the next year, 5 years, 10 years. Is there a big plan for Gini Dietrich in all of this?
I think that we probably will be doing the same thing. My job as the leader of the organization is to stay on top of the trends and to continue looking forward and staying ahead of our competitors in terms of all of this. So it probably won't look the same as it does today, 5 years from now, but I'm definitely not leaving the PR industry.
And that's a fitting way to end, because you mentioned about the PR industry, and to me and to you, marketing communications is PR, is customer service, everything that's needed. And you've been so eloquent throughout this show explaining that we've got to try to be better. We've got to understand that the landscape is changing. We've got to embrace that. We've got to work with professionals who know that. It's all about connections. It's all about relationships, and it's all about trust. And that, to me, is what SpinSucks, communication and reputation management in the digital age, is all about. Be easy to find for people now on Amazon, because they'll just type all those in, and you'll probably skyrocket from number 7, I think you are at the moment, in PR on Amazon.
Number 5.
You're number 5.
Number 5, yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, apologies for that. But I thought 7 was pretty good, to be honest. And there's a guy in front of you who has got, say, like 4 different versions of the same book, pitch perfect. So effectively, you're already rooting for a podium spot.
I am.
There's no doubt about that. We finish off as we mean to go on. We're always looking to the future. I've quizzed you about you and your ambitions, but there's one other ambition I'm sure that you're desperate to let the cat out of the bag for, and that is simply this. We've had 2. One of them was co-authored. This one's the real deal. What happens next for the author side of Gini Dietrich?
I imagine that this is what it's like when women have babies. They have a baby and they think, I'm never doing that again. And a year later, they start to want another baby. And so they think, okay, well, we'll have one more. And then they have another baby. So after I wrote Marketing the Round, I said, I'm never doing that again. And about a year later, I said, okay, fine, I'm ready to write SpinSucks. So right now, I'd like to say that there's not going to be a 3rd book, but I'm probably lying to you.
Well, and on that SpinSucks bombshell, Gini Dietrich may be lying to us. We don't know whether she's got a third book in the works. It's like living through the Lord of the Rings. I don't know where we're going to go from here. Just hope that Martin Freeman's not in the next one. You have been listening to Gini Dietrich, who has spared us far too much of her time. We're not worthy, but clearly we are. We've been talking about Spin Socks. It's grown up from this fantastic blog of many, many years to this incredible physical book that you can get your hands on. Get on Amazon, buy the freaking thing today. Do the girl your honour, because honestly, she deserves it. And many thanks to the CEO, the founder, the guru of ArmandDietrich.com, spinsocks.com if you want the blog, at Gini Dietrich on the Twitters. How do you feel? You've survived. Are you happy? Ready to get on with your day and conquer the world?
I feel great. You are awesome. Thank you very, very much.
Gini Dietrich, it's been a pleasure. Marketing Q&A episode number 2 is out of the way. Bye for now.